Coming to you live from deep within a pollen-infested, tree ejaculate wasteland. We are the survivors of the pollen apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into allergy season with Fundzerker number, I have no freaking clue.
I'll tell you, 171.
171. Did Ethan destroy Pearl? Let's take a look at her debate game.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
So
I don't know if you noticed, Karen. Pearl is currently being sort of dogpiled on Twitter.
Oh, I haven't. I don't follow her on Twitter, so I haven't noticed. But yeah, she'd be a prime target.
Yeah, it usually happens if you become like pretty popular and you're talking about men, like in any way, you know, that happens.
Oh
so.
No, you're gonna get it from all sides. You're gonna get like the Rollo Tomasis who are like, "You're just a faker."
Yeah, I invented everything.
Yeah.
Buy my book.
And then you're gonna get like the people who are like all of the feminists are definitely gonna be after you.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the MGTOWs and some of the incels and some of the men's rights people will be like, I don't trust her.
Yeah.
So
of course,
yeah, you're generally gonna get it from all sides. I mean, like I was lucky; I had Paul Elam kind of in my corner, so I didn't get it too bad from the men's rights people. But yeah, talking about
nobody knows who the hell I am. But she's also getting it. Sorry,
talking about men's rights people, talking about anything to do with men and sex and society is just like, you're gonna get it from multiple corners. Yeah.
Interestingly, she's getting it from Michaela Peterson and her last name is something different. I don't remember what, but
Jordan Peterson's daughter.
Jordan Peterson's daughter and Lauren Southern.
Yeah, well,
that's just cattiness. I don't know.
What's Michaela's problem? I kind of know Lauren Southern's story because she had this big like confession video. And I think that it's probably got something to do with
why I failed to live up to my principles and how a man is to blame.
Yeah, why I failed to live up to my principles and how this is not unique because everybody does this and we've all been fooled and the wool's been pulled over everyone's eyes. So I'm not unique in any way. You know, that's the whole video. And I was annoyed with it. But I just said, okay, fine. There are people who just have too much pride to just simply say, I fucked up. And that's just the norm now, so whatever. But I don't know what Michaela's thing is. I mean, Michaela can't exactly, claim to be some kind of pillar of integrity either because of the shit that she's done. But yeah, I don't know what their issue with Pearl is. So.
Okay, so this is sort of what it seems like. You espouse a set of principles as a public traditional, like a traditionalist or a traditional woman, and then when you fail to uphold them, you blame men, you blame the principles themselves, like they were supposed to give you a perfect life. No, they're just principles to navigate an imperfect life.
Mm-hmm. Then you go hopefully after a better one than otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you go after a traditional, a person who's espousing these traditionalist virtues, and hasn't screwed their life up yet, and you make them a target. I mean, that's I guess an uncharitable version. But what I was seeing was things like Pearl was quoting things like looking at men's jobs versus women's jobs. Which one is more important to the continuance of society? Mm-hmm. Okay, this is just plain reality.
Well, if the job that we're talking about is keeping homes and raising children, then I would argue that woman's work is just as important because women are in the primary position of being able to do that work. They're just in the better position to be able to do that. And
Islam recognizes that.
Okay. Now,
but
that's
no,
not
that's not what it is. You know, like, you don't need a teacher. You can teach your own children, you know.
What were you to say,
Yes, like,
Alison?
what I was going to say is that's not what's being talked about. I mean, we go back 150 years and ask, oh, if women are essential, well, yes. If women
Yeah.
walked away from their jobs 150 years ago, everybody dies. All right? Because they were that important. They were making sure houses were heated, had potable water. They had food
Yeah.
in the winter. You know, they were critical to their communities. Now, not so much, because utilities have taken over most of the roles that women used to do and most of the services that women used to provide in the home. And now they're doing things that are actually fairly optional, whereas men's jobs are not.
Or
Like,
even damaging.
Men walk off the job for a day, and we're probably looking at like a 20% population loss at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
of all the systems that are going to break down almost instantly. Okay.
Oh,
now,
yeah, no. Like, being married to somebody who actually manages one of those systems, right? Like, essential utility for at one point for an entire a utility that supplies half of the continent with something. Okay. And he was managing sort of the alarms and all of the, all of the systems that, keep all of that going. And if you had a 20-minute outage, that was like a $16 million loss to the company.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had an issue, right? Like, there was this guy, when they did all their safety training and everything during, their first 6 months, they would all have to do like comprehensive safety training. And they would always give this example of this one guy who just kind of, there was an important problem that should have been looked after right away, but he didn't feel like doing it, and he stuck it on a back burner and didn't tell anybody that it was a problem, and just didn't look after it. And then 6 people died horribly. And they weren't employees either. They were children out playing. And and that guy, not only did the company get sued for millions and millions of dollars, but that guy went to prison.
Yeah. And so if you multiply that by all of the men who are doing this kind of work, and incidentally, women who do this kind of work say the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
They will openly say, no, this is ridiculous. This idea of a female, no, this is ridiculous. And also, I would rather have men around doing these jobs. Because could you freaking imagine what the life of a woman who's in these utilities would become if the men left? Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, I
She'd
mean,
probably be torn to pieces by all the irate women.
But here's the thing, though, right? Like, because my husband is basically his mirror coworker, his closest one, the one who has the same title and basically the same position, was hired about the same time, and she's actually quite great. She's very competent. She takes on different tasks than him. They fill in the gaps on each other's spreadsheets very perfectly, like in terms of talent, aptitudes, stuff like that, right? Like, she does a lot of the spotting tiny problems before they become big problems, right? Because she's just like clerically just absolutely brilliant. Like, she can read lines and lines and lines of what I call gibberish and spot one typo and go like, okay, here's a problem, let's fix it. And or one thing that's a little off, right? Whereas he's the one who does like the big project work and like, does all of the we're going to do like this major migration from this system to that system, and so I got to set everything up, and I'm gonna use all of these different tools to do it, right? So I mean, but even in those situations, even though they have basically the same job title and the same education and skill level, right? She takes on a more clerical, administrative, female-oriented type of work, and he does the adventuresome, let's go boldly and explore type of work.
Yeah, she makes sure the parachute is folded properly. He jumps out of the plane.
There you go.
What a freaking surprise. And it sounds like being male and female in this instance produces a good team that's doing good work.
There you go.
Wow, it's almost like we evolved to work together. Oh my God.
In just these ways.
Oh man, but yeah.
We should get into the video, I think.
Well,
if you want to do a little preamble about...
Yeah, I'm going to do the preamble. I just want to conclude. So essentially what happened, aside from the little digression there, Pearl asserted that men's jobs are more critical to the running of society at this point in time than women's. She is 100% right. Okay? And then she also, in response, Lauren Southard said, but women motivate men. And I was reading this tweet and I'm like, okay, Lauren, if women motivate men, are they then responsible for the fact that there is a serious crisis of motivation in men in our society? Do they then have to step up and solve that problem? I don't think you're going to say that. So simultaneously, women are responsible for motivating men, but if men aren't motivated, it's their own fault. No, that doesn't pass the sniff test. But regardless, she said, and then Pearl in response said, are you really arguing that if women disappeared, men wouldn't continue to do their jobs, to go on adventures, to pedestalize femboys? She didn't say that part. They wouldn't continue to do what they're doing. And she's like, and she did a poll. Do you think that men would continue to do what they're doing? Yes or no? I would say yes, they would continue to do. I mean, obviously it's going to be limited because you won't have another generation unless you have really good reproductive technology. But they probably would. However, there may grow a class of female impersonator and femboy that becomes the vulnerable center.
Okay,
the beautiful ones.
But what you might actually get is what you get when a bunch of adolescent male gorillas or elephants or lions get booted out of the group, right? And you just get a bunch of bachelors who hang out together and they get along great and they groom each other and there's no fighting and they team up and they do work collectively, whether it's hunting or protecting the group or whatever, right? They hang out together and band together for survival and they cooperate, right? And it's only when you introduce a female that things start to fall apart socially among these bachelor pods, right? So it's, you might actually have a situation where the men actually cooperate more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's possible, but I mean, look at the real Lord of the Flies. The kids, the
kids off of New Zealand.
Yeah, they all got on a deserted island. They practically made a little utopia for themselves. But the overall point is, she tweeted this stuff. Michaela Peterson, or whatever her last name is now, responded with, "This is hateful." And I responded with, "It doesn't matter if it's hateful. It matters whether or not it's true or false."
Yeah.
What?
That tone policing I'm getting from Michaela? I mean, it's not surprising.
Yeah, well, but it's it doesn't freaking matter.
No, it doesn't.
We're dealing with reality, and we are rapidly coming. I don't know if these women realize it.
But it's mean, Alison. It's mean. Yeah, we gotta usher in the apocalypse, otherwise people might get their feelings hurt.
People talk about hitting the wall. Our culture is getting to that point.
Yeah.
And we can't keep lying to ourselves about it because it's hateful or mean. Pearl wasn't saying anything, as far as I can tell, that was false, or at least it had enough of a germ of a truth that it should be entertained and spoken about.
Absolutely.
And yet she's getting slammed.
I don't even think it's controversial.
It's nothing that me or Camille Paglia haven't said a million times.
Yeah, like Camille Paglia
and controversial.
No, but that's just it. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, and we can give women credit for anything that they are willing to step up and take responsibility for. And I will say that to Lauren Southern. If women are willing to step up and take responsibility for the fact that we have a crisis of motivation in our society, and they're willing to put their backs to fixing that, then they get credit for it. And not a moment sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will do my spiel.
Do the spiel. Right. We're going to get into the video. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get into the video. All right, so we are doing a monthly fundraiser, which is always a sort of an anxiety-inducing time for us. But we would, if we are to be able to continue to say the stuff in the way that we say it, which more and more I'm really realizing is completely unique. People really have an aversion to saying, yeah, women have to step up and take responsibility. And maybe that they are the only ones who do it, and if they don't, well, we're going to be dealing with a lot of shit. This seems to be like a message that most people don't want to hear. They're adverse to it. We have been pushing this for 10 years now, almost, and we need to keep going. Can't stop now because this message is needed more than ever, and we need to be uncompromising on it. It is not misogyny to say that women need to take responsibility for their influence over society. And get this, women have a huge influence over society. Lauren Southern is right. What she's wrong in is thinking that women deserve credit for something they don't take responsibility for. You don't. Okay? And this is a message that we really need right now. Unfortunately, it's not one that seems to be very popular because people would prefer to blame men, or people would prefer to just walk away instead of expecting women to take responsibility. So if you want to make sure that this message can keep going, 10 years, folks, we aren't about to stop yet. Please go to feedthebadger.com/support and put a few shekels in the hat. $5, $10, everything counts. So don't think that it doesn't. So please take that time and go to feedthebadger.com/support. And if you would like to send us a message throughout the show, give us your comment on how Pearl did, how Ethan did, what you think of the arguments, please go to feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And you can give us a tip, and through that, which is very appreciated because we get the full benefit of the funds, and you get the benefit of avoiding YouTube shenanigans. And you also get a bit of a longer space, a longer canvas to work with. So once again, send us a message at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Make sure that we can keep talking about this at feedthebadger.com/support. All right.
Yeah.
Go, Brian.
Maybe
I'll do some arm twisting in a bit.
Okay. Maybe one day we'll break through whatever, like, walled room we're stuck inside of that we can't seem to reach people, but we just got to keep plugging away. So, all right, a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, the alternative is to stop. Like, seriously, guys, the alternative is to stop. And then nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, or they're being dealt with in the way that Ethan came after Pearl in this conversation. So a little bit of backstory. Ethan Klein used to be a comedy YouTuber. He would do these sketches. It was very popular, but for whatever reason, he slowed down, stopped. I don't know. I didn't really follow him very closely. Then he started doing a podcast called Off the Rails, and he became very close to Hassan Piker, who you guys might know as the man who said MRAs, men's rights activists, are machines. Hassan is the nephew to Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. So you could see, like, if you're drawing the line, you can see the relationship across the board here. And so Hassan has been, well, I'm going to put it bluntly, grooming Ethan into his sort of, like, worldview while he does, like, these, like, late night, long Twitch streams where he propagandizes his whole audience on communism and feminism and other things, like, related to that. And so Ethan has been, like, entering this kind of battlefield. And I remember at one point, just, to give you guys a little bit of a summary of, like, the exploits that Ethan's been on. He was invited, I think he was invited on to Steven Crowder's show when Crowder was still on YouTube. To debate him on something. I can't remember what it was.
Debate him one-on-one. And Ethan brought Sam Cedar with him.
Yeah, he brought Sam Cedar with him, and Sam Cedar tried to hijack the conversation, and Crowder did not appreciate the way that went down, and so he kicked him, and so that was one attempt. So basically, I'm telling you this because Ethan is not. He's just trying to score political points. And so
he's a sneaky fucker.
Yeah, and he's a sneaky fucker. And he's a dishonest, like these are all dishonest people. Did you see, Karen, did you see the thing with what's her name from the Majority Report on Tim Pool? That was just a couple days ago. And then what? Go ahead. I can't remember her name, but she was she was on the Majority Report, and there was another thing that also happened that was really frustrating too. So these people are not honest actors. They don't have an interest in doing this, like, having a real discussion. They want to score political points. They want to like pander to their audience. They want to get clicks. They want to get clips cut out and so they can make money. So this is all a grift. They don't have an interest in doing this for real. I'm just putting it out there. I don't care what people say. They are dishonest. So just prepare yourself, because Pearl, I like what she does, and I think that she has good intentions. And I know that some people say she's a grifter, but by that logic, we're grifters too, because she makes money doing something that she could just be doing feminist shit and making way more money, but she's not. So it's not. I don't think that's what's going on here, but I do think that Pearl has never really had to deal with extremely manipulative bad actors in discussions. And so that's what this is. So let's go ahead. We're going to start from a section. It's short. It's about 10 minutes, which means this show is going to be about 3 hours. And it is entitled, "Why Are You Defending Men?" And this is where Ethan's trying to understand why Pearl would have the gall to defend men. Like, it's such a ridiculous thing to do, right? So let's take a listen to the first few. And by the way, the colors have been shifted by me so that we can get a little bit of protection. And I've also sped up the playback a little bit also just for further insurance. So, here we go.
But what does blue pilled mean?
People that see the world for how they'd like it to be, I guess.
Okay.
I don't talk much about, I guess, like blue pill, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough. We don't have to focus in on that. So I've noticed that one of the primary focuses of your content is kind of the problems facing men and how there's so much unfair societal pressures or norms or expectations on men. Why is it that you're so singularly focused on the troubles of men? All
right, I'm just pausing it there for the banana. I thought it was a good place.
I could
do you have any answers? Yeah, okay.
Well, I could answer for myself.
Yeah.
Well, number one, because we need men. Number two, because we've marginalized them so horribly. Number three, because we're losing them. And number four, because we need them, right? And then on top of that, what are we going to do when our grandchildren's money runs out, right? Because that's how we're paying for all of this shitting on men and artificially propping up women, is with our grandchildren's freaking, like, my kids were born with each, and this is Canada, this isn't the US, so we aren't in as big of trouble as you guys down in the States, right? They were each born with between $30,000 and $55,000 in debt per kid, okay? Of government debt, right? And that doubled during COVID. Doubled. Okay, so my kids who are responsible with money, who pay their taxes, who have savings, right? Their children are going to be born with twice or thrice or even 4 times the debt that my kids were born with. Right?
Yeah.
And who's that paying for? Who's that benefiting? Well, no, it's paying for women. It's paying for women.
Yes, and it's also okay. Let's
and it's not even doing any good. If I could see it, if it was actually beneficial to women and children, but it's not. It's counterproductive. It makes less productive children, less productive women, less productive men.
Alison, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. Like, I'm totally on board with agreeing that to Lauren Southern's statement that women motivate men. However, they need to take responsibility for it.
Well, they should also probably start motivating them too, because they're not really doing that either.
You want to motivate a man. How about this? Go off welfare and say, "Honey, I depend on you."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm going to work part-time to help out. But
yeah, because I care
your
about
family, me, your wife, and these children who are yours depend on you. How about that?
Yeah, nobody wants to say it. You don't even want to say it in the abstract by simply recognizing that men are now basically responsible for maintaining our society. Okay? They don't even want to recognize it it costs them nothing but a little bit of gratitude and recognition of reality, and that's hateful. Come on, give me a break. But let's just say that Lauren Southern is right. Women are responsible for motivating men. This is the situation we're in. Karen has
she didn't say women are responsible for motivating men. She just said women motivate men. Well,
okay,
honey,
right.
Honey, not for long, and not for nothing.
Okay. But moving on,
yeah,
how this works in the situation of increasing this like we're going down this hill and our debt snowball is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Debt, going into debt is borrowing on future labor, future productivity. So by borrowing on our grandchildren's product, we are borrowing on their productivity at the same time as we are destroying the productivity of our society.
Yeah, as we're using the money that we're borrowing from our grandchildren's productivity to ensure that they will not be productive.
Yes, we're basically slitting our own throats. And here's what I would say. It's not just that women motivate men. It's also that if you look at hunter-gatherer societies, men motivate women.
Yeah.
The best gatherer, the most efficient gatherer, the one who can create the best standard of living in her hut, goes to the best hunter. So in those scenarios where you're living at the razor's edge of survival, you get men and women to motivate each other. But how can men motivate women when they're seen as less than like a net negative?
They're vermin.
Worse than worthless.
Okay? Yeah, no,
so
it's like when
destroying men's motivation, you're destroying women's motivation.
Yeah, no, like Mahalik literally took the men's the conformity to masculine norms inventory and pulled everything, just purged all of the positive traits, stereotypes about men, just purged them off that list, right? Because some women feel a pressure to be a breadwinner. And some women feel a pressure to be a faithful partner. And some women feel a pressure to be a good parent, right? So we got to remove those off the masculine norms inventory. And all we're keeping is these negative qualities of, and I will say, immature males. Gilgamesh before his journey with Enkidu.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to get to the
Shaka. You were going to say Shaka when the walls fell? No. But basically, like you have immature masculinity being portrayed by academia as the standards of masculinity that the culture demands, right? And it's like, no, because even when you had a character in a 4,500-year-old story, probably older than that, that was when it was written down, right? You had a character in that story who went through a huge, strugglesome journey, right? to transcend those immature qualities of masculinity and become a responsible king, a responsible leader, a responsible man, generous, empathetic, kind, right? Responsible, accountable,
fatherly, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's the hero's journey. Just again, that's the thing that makes men. And I think that they want everybody to be Seth Rogen in like any of his movies, basically.
They want everybody to be stuck in like perpetual male adolescence.
Yeah.
The perpetual Gilgamesh, the detested king of Uruk, not the wise and just and responsible and empathetic and kind king of Uruk that he became. Right? They
those immature traits create some when they go through a process of maturity, and this is true about women too. They create something beneficial to society. When immature masculinity goes through the process of maturity, mature masculine is incredibly important to society. And honestly, right now, the fact that men are responsible for the majority of our society, the majority of keeping it running, means that they, by definition, have attained a greater level of maturity.
Well, yeah.
By definition. Doesn't even matter if they go
or more of them have.
Games. Or
more of them have.
If they're the ones keeping the lights on, by definition, they're more mature.
Because even women who like take on, who do the sort of the traditional female roles of, being a mother and a homemaker and, all of those things, right? A lot of them aren't very responsible about it, right? Like the number of women that I know who spend more money than their family can afford, who spend it on frivolous things, right? Who do not think of the future, who basically, you remember when Trump tax cuts went in, and there were all these news programs talking to people who felt like they were paying more taxes, right? Like a bunch of people felt like they were paying more taxes. Well, it's because those taxes were not removed from the amount automatically deducted from their paychecks was less, right? The amount that they inevitably had to pay was less, but they were counting on the government to act, on the IRS to act as a kind of de facto default savings plan. I got $400 this year instead of the $1,800 back I got all, the last 5 years. I was planning on spending that on a vacation, and now I can't. And it's like, well, what did you spend it on when it was on your paycheck?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I lost that $1,800 that the government gives back to me. I only got $2,500 over the course of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can we play the next bit?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Hear your desperation.
We've been in 30 seconds and we haven't even heard Pearl's answer. So, all right, let's go. Ethan's so weird and twitchy.
Why am I focused on the troubles of men? And that's an interesting way to, I guess, phrase my content. I would say I think it's unfortunate what happens to men in divorce court. So that's probably what I talk about the most. I think that men should have access to their children.
That's not what you talk about the most. You definitely talk about stuff like pay gap myth. You talk about men want younger girls. You talk about men are just doing what's in their nature. You talk about women who have higher body count are less desirable. I'll be honest. I've watched a lot of your stuff, and the vast majority is not about divorce court. It's about this kind of like dating coach stuff.
Oh, fuck off.
Oh, it gets way worse.
If you said that in front of me, I swear to God, if you bullied someone like that in front of me, I don't know. I would not.
All I gotta say is, it's all connected, Ethan. You see, all of those issues are connected.
But did you see how he told her what she
talks about?
Yeah.
What she talks about, what she thinks.
No. What you are seeing is her most popular content. And this is something that we have a problem with too. People are like, oh, your content is all about rage. I'm like, no, we have all kinds of content. That's what you have seen because it's the most popular and it gets shared around. She most likely is exactly accurate when she says that her content, or at least her content that is most important to her. This is another thing.
The one that motivates her the most, right?
Well,
that it doesn't necessarily mean the one she talks about the most.
Yeah,
it's just the one that
motivates her the most. The one that she considers most important, and often the one that she most likely spent the most time in researching, is likely on that subject. So to her, that subject is the biggest.
I mean, is there not a relationship between dating and divorce?
And body count
and body count in divorce? Yes.
Yes. And there's all, I'm not sure about like Young and Pretty. I think that's just, I mean, that kind of stuff gets a lot of attention. So I bet that he hasn't looked at enough of her stuff to even make that.
I'm sure he hasn't. Her streams are like 3 hours, 4 hours long. I'm certain that he hasn't watched as much as he claims. I think he saw clips that get shared around. They're not from her main channel or something like that. Maybe some of her shorts,
Yeah,
go
because
ahead.
or because they get shared around because everybody is the most outraged by them.
Yeah.
Right? And even the men like young pretty women thing, right? That could actually be dating coach advice for women. Lose a little weight, wear clothes that are flattering to your figure, don't overdo the makeup, have nice hair, right? And maybe a pleasant disposition. Give that a try. I know it's hard.
Well, that's again, it's important to remember that Ethan's not here to hear out Pearl's ideas and maybe entertain some different perspective. He is here to essentially like dunk on her really hard, make her look stupid, point out whatever. It's the same thing. It's like Charlie Kirk debated Hassan Piker at like a CPAC thing. And it got so heated that Cenk was in the audience and like he and Charlie Kirk were about to box, it got really heated. And but the reason is because what these people do, this is why I'm bringing this up, that's why I brought up I bring up people like Ethan and what's her name from Majority Report, Emma Vigeland, that's her name. And Hassan, like their whole tactic is they get on the stream with you, Hunter Avalon does this. And their goal is to get you to lose your cool. Because then you lose your cool and they go, why are you triggered, Snowflake? And then that goes up as a clip and everybody goes, those people with their bad ideas, right? And so like just, if you ever go on a podcast like this, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, but do not lose your cool. Like I know that their goal is to make you angry. And that's all they want to do is get you to flip out. Because they're lying to you to your face and they're smiling, and that is enough to drive you up the wall. But
the one time I lost my cool, it was I was just so grateful that the audience was.
Is it Naomi Wolf?
Yeah.
Naomi Wolf, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, can we just admit that it was shit for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And the audience applauded, and I was just like, "Oh, thank God!"
Yeah, right. Dodge the bullet.
Because I lost my cool, and sometimes most of the time, that'll just go totally sideways for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I got a super chat and a super chow. So I'm gonna read those really quick. So we got a super chow from Anonymous for $50. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that's nice. All right. And Anonymous gives us 50 and says, remember when in Australia the women at the rail transit company took a female solidarity day off work and almost nothing noticeable was different? But when 37 male train drivers were off for a day, the company practically halted. I do remember that. That feels like it was a while ago, but I do.
You remember Does anybody remember Swedish anti-sexist snow plowing?
Oh yeah, right. Yes, I remember that too.
We're gonna do the sidewalks and the bike lanes before we do the transit routes and the main arteries for traffic. And because women use the sidewalks and the bike lanes to walk their babies in the strollers and
and
to get to the corner store.
It's the men doing all the clearing, so if
it's the men doing all the plowing, they couldn't get to their freaking plows.
Like 2 inches of snow paralyzed the entire city.
Yeah.
we just followed putting women first.
The non-sexist snow removal. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
I got a super chat from Johnny Boy Quick Draw for $5, and they say, I think Chunk Yogurt is still waiting for his sandwich, Karen. Get on that. The buffalo shall suckle from the teat of the pale skin. Cherokee proverb. Yeah, that sounds legitimately Cherokee.
Well, yeah, it does sound Cherokee. But maybe I will video myself making a sandwich for Jenk.
A ham sandwich.
He did say a ham sandwich.
Yes, it'll be.
One of the things.
He's Muslim though, but.
Well, is he though?
Ham. Okay, but one of the things I really despise about the feminist ideology is how it negates women's right to their own minds.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is such. Have you ever heard the song "Lady Hell"? That is right out of Lady Hell. Women telling other women, "Oh, you don't know your own mind." Like, that is the most abusive crap. Well, not the most, but it's pretty high up there in terms of being really shitty. To take away someone's like autonomy or the perception that their actions and their thoughts are their own. It's like a form of psychological smothering.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, he's engaging in that kind of behavior. He's denying Pearl's right to speak on herself. And like when you do this, because the thing is that this is what I've noticed. Feminist men will engage in this kind of abusive behavior towards women who don't agree with them. They'll deny their personhood. They will deny the right to be seen as having their own choices in mind. And they'll do all of this kind of what I would term very misogynist abuse. I'm willing to say that that's misogynist. To deny a woman the right to have her perceived as her own person is misogyny, in my opinion. So he's engaging in misogynist abuse. You'll see this from feminist men.
Oh, yeah.
What I've noticed is you don't see this from the right. Like, even Jordan Peterson, for all of his faults, that, like going after the MGTOW, which he did apologize for, and other things like men should conform to women, well, I think that's a bit ridiculous. He goes too far with that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He never has done that. Like all of the right, the far right, or like what they call the far right, all of the non-persons.
You mean us?
Do not do. Yeah, us.
Yeah, us.
No, you don't do that. We don't. Like, did you go to Naomi Wolf and say, "Well, you just don't understand your own mind, Naomi"? Pat, poor you. No, you kept it to the fucking facts.
Yeah, well,
maybe an emotional argument. Like, can't we just admit that everybody had it shit? Like, like, it was bad for everyone. Nobody. Men were not lording it over women. Women were not lording it over men. It was just a shit situation up until industrialization, and everybody has so much shit now. Okay,
and even for most people throughout industrialization.
Yes, throughout
for most people.
And particularly for a lot of men, because they ended up dying in a lot of that infrastructure project.
And a lot of kids too, who ended up losing fingers at sawmills and shit, and canning facilities.
My overall point is that I have never seen, specifically, I can't really respond to the manosphere, but men's rights activists do this to women, even if they disagree with them. They don't do shit like, you don't know your own mind. I'm gonna directly contradict your own experience. I'm going to take that away from you. You can't even talk about your own experience, little lady. I know what it is. I know it better than you because I'm a male feminist. You don't see men's rights activists doing that to even women who disagree.
No, I see it's even just rare in the broader manosphere, right? Like And Rollo Tomasi, right? I say his name because he's the one. He's the one who was so annoyed with me and so like absolutely disgusted by me, right? And the fact that I would even speak up about things that it's not a woman's place, right? To speak up about these things and to tell men how they should be and stuff. And it's like, well, I'm just repeating. I'm all I'm here doing is saying I mostly agree with most of these red pill guys on most of these issues, right? There are some things I don't agree on, but most of what they say on most of these issues, at least most of them, I can get behind. I can say, well, that's actually factually correct, and it might not be the best approach, but it's the approach you've chosen, whatever, right? I'm not judgmental. I don't mind pickup artists. I don't mind red pillars. I don't mind tradcons. I don't mind incels, and I don't mind MGTOW. I managed to get along with people from all of these groups, right? Except for Rollo Tomasi and that one freaking left-winger, and I can't say his name because he changes his fucking account every 2 weeks just so he can stalk me on Reddit.
I don't know who you're talking about, but Rollo Tomasi wrote the book on the man. He invented everything, don't you know? He is the Nikola Tesla of the manosphere. He created it all.
Do you know?
Buy his book, guys. He is the guy.
I got blocked.
Didn't the guy who wrote the game write the book?
I think Rollo Tomasi wrote the guy that wrote the game. I think he wrote the person. He wrote us into existence. He's like Sutter Kane from In the Mouth of Madness. Do you read Rollo Tomasi? Like, the guy made everything. He made it all up.
Okay. Karen,
and he gets 100% credit.
I got blocked by Rollo. Do you know what I got blocked for? Because it's interesting what you said.
I can't wait to hear.
Okay, well, he was talking about how men have to be completely independent of women. And I went to his website and I pointed out that he said that men have to appeal to women. I mean, appealing to women is a fundamental part of being a desirable man or being a man of worth. And I pointed this out. He said something like that. I said, well, is this not revolving your identity around women? Blocked.
Well, what a stupid thing to say. Men need to exist in their identities independent of women. How do you do that? Right? Like, there's just not even any, even for a gay man, you can't even really do that.
But also, like, why would you say that and simultaneously put women's desires up as the standard? Like, men have to be entertaining, men have to do all these things and judge themselves by women, and then say in the other breath, oh, but men need to be independent. It's like, choose a lane. That's all I did was point that out, and it was like blocked.
Yeah, no, I was blocked for something as well, similar. I don't know. I pointed out some, internal inconsistency in his philosophy.
With Lauren Southern. It's like, okay, fine. Women motivate men. I'm not going to, but they're not. Do they take responsibility now for the fact that we are in an epidemic of low
unmotivated men?
Have no motivation.
Right. Yeah.
Do they take? Okay, I'm going to give women credit for motivating men the moment a critical mass of women steps up and takes responsibility for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Says, how can we motivate these men?
I'm done joking about Rollo. I just think it's funny. But Xerax gives us $10, super chow, and says, the thing about these interviews is the background of the guests are rarely known. Pearl followed Kevin Samuels and paid to be mentored by Hafiz of the Roommates podcast, which is part of why he couldn't challenge her the way he did Coach Greg Adams when he confronted her and her material. Pearl sought out men in this space to figure out what to talk about. It could be a grift, as some allege, but she still went to two sources and calls on stuff Rollo has discussed. The fact that she watched Cassie J's documentary featuring you guys shows that she's looking at the sources of what she discusses. All that is lost and makes people like Ethan look even more disingenuous. Okay, look, for my personal opinion, I don't care what her motivations are. I don't care if she's trying to make money. All I care about is she telling people the truth? Is she sharing information, regardless of who gets all of the kudos, regardless of whatever? I just want the message out there. And if Pearl's getting the message out there, then that's fine. Fucking huzzah. I don't care. You know, because when people start, like, this is the thing. Like, I feel like I'm always defending people that I'm supposed to hate. I have to defend Trump. I have to defend Harvey Weinstein. I have to defend fucking Pearl.
Bill Cosby.
I have to defend Bill Cosby. I have to defend Pearl. I have to defend Andrew Tate, because everybody's got to bug up their ass about something they did a year ago, 10 years ago, or there's no evidence, there's just accusations. It's endless, it's endless, it's endless. And I'm just like, are they doing good? Okay then. Can I just give them credit for the stuff that I like and just forget the rest? I mean, I don't, like I said, in my opinion, okay, from what I've seen, regardless of whatever her motivations are, and I say the same about Lauren Southern, by the way, I don't like what she said in her last video, but I still like Lauren Southern. I hope that she heals, figures it all out, and, like, you know, I don't know, does something good with the rest of her life. But I don't care what your motivations are. I don't care what your intentions are. I just care about whether or not you're telling the truth. Because if you're grifting, but you're using the truth to grift, then I guess there you go. It's like Chloe Roma, same thing. She, you know, she says things that are true, I let it go. She tries to, like, come after men in some way or bring feminism into it, I call her out, because that's where I draw the line. It's very simple. So I don't have to love any of these people, you know?
I got into a big Twitter spat just recently because Jordan Peterson, because of his comments about men, you know, that women are a selection pressure that on reproduction that basically improves humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And well, yeah, they are a selection pressure on reproduction, right? They are the bottleneck. Are they improving humanity? No,
Yeah.
not lately, right? Not at all.
Right.
And you know, so, and we are basically back to the 80-20 rule. We are basically back to hopefully a common chimpanzee society as opposed to a fucking bonobo society. Okay, but we're on our way back to some kind of fucked up monkey shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
it's already here for parts of the country.
You better hope we land in chimpanzee land. You better hope we land north of the Congo and not south, because nobody likes it south of the Congo. Ooh, they're the bonobos are the love monkey. No, they're the rape monkey. Rape monkey. Everybody's fucking raping everybody, including children. Jesus fuck. Right? And that's where we're going. I'm sorry, but Jordan, you need to be harder on women. You go easier on women than you do on men. Admit it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just admit it. I still love you. I still appreciate you. I still think you're a net positive for the universe. Okay? But on this one issue, right? I don't know why you're doing it, but you're doing it. And maybe
he can't help himself.
Maybe it's because you can't help yourself and you feel sympathetic towards women because you have the empathy gap. You're the embodiment of the empathy gap like everybody else is, right? Maybe that's why, right? Or maybe it's because you know that if you actually really started telling women what the fuck is wrong with them,
you'd become the bad guy, absolutely. For real this time.
You'd stop selling books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And can I point something else out? Yes, women place selective pressure on men, or actually females place selective pressure on men. So they are an evolutionary pressure.
Just say women, Alison.
No, I'm making the distinction because there's something additional that goes on. Women place a social pressure on men. It's not related to like evolving biological stuff. And that social pressure can be beneficial to the production of a cooperative society or not. Okay?
Or detrimental,
my favorite example is the Sabine women. What did they do? They challenged their own identities as women at that time. What did women do? They motivated men to battle over their sexuality. That's like a Bronze Age thing. It was really critical for men that they be able to protect the sexuality of their women. What did the Sabine women do? They challenged that. They challenged that influence over men. And in challenging that influence over men, they laid the foundation for tribes of men working together in a nation state, which did not exist before that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that did not exist. That kind of cooperative tribal cooperation did not exist. What nation states before that time, they were kingdoms and they were one tribe subjugating everyone else. Okay, so that kind of cooperation didn't exist. And then suddenly, that was a force multiplier for the concept of civilization. And we live in the shadow of that. So women apply selective pressure, but we're more than just biological imperatives. We're also social considerations. And if women aren't applying reasonable social considerations in our society disappears. Like, we all end up being slaves to some other better society, like, I guess maybe China. I'm not saying China is better. But
Right, if they have
if they're more efficient.
Yeah, if they have their shit together, then that's just what it is. Okay, let's play a little bit more of the video.
No, I wouldn't say I'm a dating coach, but okay.
No, but that realm, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean you're a dating coach, but like that kind of realm, it seems that you're super focused on. So what is your interest in that? Manosphere, maybe that's a better term, manosphere stuff.
Oh God, she's letting him control.
Yeah, I know. Pearl's she's a bit
her.
Yeah, she doesn't seem like the kind of person that's accustomed to very like manipulative bad faith actors. Like on her podcast, she certainly has to deal with aggressive people because she gets like women off the street and men off the street, and sometimes the women are very combative, but they're not like this. They're not like serpents, you know what I mean? So,
well,
okay.
First of all, what he's done is that he's forced her to take responsibility for his perception of her content.
Yeah.
So now she's conceded that. And, it might have been better if she pushed back on that. I don't know. What do you think, Karen? If she just said something like, "Can I see the statistics?"
I would have nipped it. I would have nipped it in the bud immediately. I would have nipped it in the bud.
Yeah, no, you just say, well, that's the content you've seen, and I'm guessing that it's the most outrageous clips that get shared by people who don't like me.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for my most popular content, which is probably the content that you've seen. But the content
or the most prolific, or the most shared content.
But the content that means the most to me, and I've spent the most time on, and wish was the most popular, is this content.
Yeah.
And now that he's framed her in this way, and he's forced her to take responsibility, or at least concede somehow to this idea that her most important to her content is the dating. He's now hurting her even further. So he's going to make her talk about that, because that's where he's probably laying whatever trap he's setting up.
Yeah.
Don't let people do this.
Yeah. All right.
You do the politician thing.
Well, he's got a script, right? He's reading off.
He's been prepared for this. I bet Hassan put together a bunch of talking points and gave him, because Ethan's not the smartest guy. He's just going through the script. He has because he has a specific goal, is to make her look bad and take away all of her credibility. And this happens later when he brings like a conversation about slavery into it, which is not Pearl's normal content at all. But occasionally it comes up because a lot of her guests are black, and they bring it up for whatever reason. And she reads Thomas Sowell, who apparently is, despite being a black man, that was a very intelligent economist guy that did a lot of research, is completely not credible at all. So,
Okay, but my overall point is, if you're going to get in this situation, do the politician answer.
Yeah.
So what I hear is that the content that you've seen of mine is this, but the content that I want to talk about is this, because this is what's important to me and this is what motivates me.
Yeah.
So
it's like a reverse Kathy Newman.
So
it's
yeah. It's like it's just asserting yourself.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how this feminist is definitely showing how you might learn to corral women with a pickup artistry.
Yeah.
And start to, and to frame like the debating to put them in a particular spot, essentially. She's very good at it. Okay.
All right, let's keep
That's all I
going.
wanted to say.
What is my interest? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, so that's what we
Okay.
talk about.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's fair. So what is, you say you're anti-feminism? Feminism was basically a mistake. So what is your problem with feminism? Let's start there. That's a good point, right?
I think that feminism wants equality when it benefits us and not actual equality.
Feminism, and that's, are you going back to the beginning of feminism? Like the whole history of feminism, like women's suffrage and everything?
Yeah, no, I don't.
You don't fuck with women's suffrage?
No.
Based. She needs to watch Janice Fiamengo's videos on that. They're very well done. Love you, Janice. Shout out to Janice Fiamengo, everybody.
It was the wrong answer though that she gave.
Well, okay. I'm gonna grab a coffee. You tell him what she should have said.
She should have said that the entire feminist narrative frames men as the evil villains of the world and disrupts the relationship between the sexes and their cooperative nature when it comes to building societies and raising children.
I don't think he let her again, I think this is a series of framing. Like he's saying you have a problem with feminism. Oh, you so you have, and they always go back to the vote because the vote is supposedly the most unimpeachable thing that feminists ever did. But of course,
yeah, but her
double standard.
Her answer should have been, right, that the entire feminist narrative, all the way back to the beginning, is an indictment of men, a false accusation against men, right, that interferes with the cooperative nature of the sexes.
I see what you're saying. It's reframing it because, again, women probably would have gotten the vote without feminism of the suffragettes.
Yeah.
Because it was a general push towards a greater and greater enfranchisement of groups of people. So they were going to get the vote, period. Feminism had nothing to do with that. Suffragettes had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, there were even people like suffragists at that time who were complaining that the suffragettes were so outrageous, their behavior was so outrageous that it was actually hurting the cause of general suffrage.
Mm-hmm.
So, like it was like, and not just general suffrage, but women's suffrage, right? Like, so not just like suffrage for every man, no matter his income or status or whatever, but also suffrage for women, that the suffragettes were actually being counterproductive because the behavior, right, and the tactics were so socially harmful and irresponsible, right, that people were starting to wonder, like, well, these ladies don't even know how to fucking behave. Should they get the vote?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a good thing to bring up. All right.
Here's the other thing.
Oh, go ahead.
In reframing, you know that this is going to take a while, Brian, so just don't worry about it. In reframing the whole narrative around these issues, feminism takes responsibility for things that were a result of social pressures and result of men in power responding to social pressures. Like, the thing is that when industrialization happened, it completely eradicated women's role in society. Like, they used to be very critical in terms of the home economy, and the home economy was the most important economy. And then industrialization got rid of that. Well, there was probably a sense that women should have a say in society. They used to, because they controlled the most important economy, and then suddenly they stopped. So there would probably have been a pressure that, yeah, women really should have a say. And I bet that that's what really did it. It had absolutely nothing to do with feminism and nothing to do with suffragettes.
Oh, you know what?
Idea that the time had come.
Yeah, you know what I find hilarious is, you remember, Goodfella, right?
Oh yeah, he's the
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
I love him.
Yeah. No, he's a sweetie.
Yeah.
But he unearthed some old black and white news bits from like the 1960s.
I remember that. I remember that video.
Yeah, and they were asking people on the street about whether they were in favor of the Equal Pay Act in Scotland. And all of these people, men and women, you know what they said? Yes, I'm in favor of it. Because if you have to pay a woman as much as you pay a man, you'll be more likely to hire a man. And men are the ones with the financial responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Every time you see a situation where there is restrictions on women in going into an occupation or going into an educational system, it's because there are expectations on men, placed on men, to provide for women.
Yep.
Okay? Like you look at the Regency stuff where there's this one landowner guy. But if you think about the first sentence that Jane Austen wrote, it's a well understood truth that a man in possession of a fortune is the rightful property of a daughter of a family, of his class. Something I'm saying it really badly, but I'm paraphrasing it really badly. But it's essentially that his fortune belongs to their daughters. That is a social attitude. A man has a fortune, but it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to his wife.
Yeah.
Okay, and he must wife up. That was the social expectation in the 60s. In fact, older men tell me that one of the big things that feminism, quote unquote, did was take the pressure off men to marry. Because it used to be huge. If you were a successful man, you married, period. Okay, or you might be a fag and you don't want to go down there. Okay, so if you were a successful man, your fortune belonged to a wife. Your fortune belonged to your wife, and you better get one quick. Otherwise, you will be looked at and you will be cast over for promotions. You will be discriminated against in the workplace. So that's the case. Like every single time there's been a situation where women are excluded from the productivity of something, that productivity is socially expected to go to them. All right? It's invariable. It's invariable. Men aren't allowed to go off and become hugely wealthy and not have that wealth somehow benefit women. All right? And that's what they were recognizing in the 60s. That's what they were recognizing 150 years ago, 200 years ago. They recognized that men have social pressure on them to prove their value and provide that value to women. And if they have that social pressure, they should have the opportunities to do so. That's it.
Yeah, you remember the bachelor tax lady? It was like in the 1850s or something in the U.S., and she was basically saying that bachelors should have to. She was seriously lobbying for this. She was that bachelors should have to buy a license, like you have to buy a license to own a dog. Okay, because there are all these women, marriageable women, between the ages of 19 and 32. Who don't have husbands, and the government and the church have to take care of them because they're unmarried, and these men need to step up and marry them. And then, like, there were bachelor societies that popped up to oppose these things. And they actually would, whenever one of their members would get married, they would hold a funeral for him and do a procession through the streets. Right? And they wrote like these satirical pieces in the newspaper lambasting this proposal to impose a bachelor tax, right? And this was in New England, I think, if I recall right, because there were more women than men in New England because the men all went west, right, adventuresomely, and the women stayed where it was safe in New England. And so it was like they would have these duels in the editorial opinion columns of the papers, right? Where and posters and stuff and leaflets where they'd be like, yeah, no, if you join our club, but if you dare to shame the society by getting married, we'll lament your loss and have a funeral and blah blah blah, right? And you will be kicked out of the club, right? And yeah, no, it was hilarious because, and this woman, she was just like some old freaking spinster, like 60-year-old woman. She's like, we need a bachelor tax to pay for all of these unmarried women.
Man, yeah, but here's the other thing. Like, that happened in a context, and that context was active discrimination in terms of employment against bachelors. Like,
Yes.
They talk about how women who were married were discriminated. Well, it's because anybody who wasn't supporting a woman financially was discriminated in the system that promoted the idea that men should support women financially. What a freaking shock.
Yeah.
But patriarchy.
But the difference is that bachelors, if they couldn't get a job, they didn't eat.
Yeah.
Whereas if a woman couldn't get a husband, the spinsters, but here's the thing, the spinsters would be taken care of by their brothers-in-laws or their brothers.
Or their parents.
Or their fathers.
Yeah, or their parents.
Fathers, that when their fathers died, they would be taken care of by their brothers or cousins or their brother-in-law. That's why it was such a big deal that one of the girls married well.
Lizzie Borden
all the other
took
girls
an
would be
axe.
set.
Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her father 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her mother 41. Lizzie Borden was 35 years old, unmarried, and was living with and being supported by her parents.
Yep.
So
this is the case. All of these societies that restrict women's ability to find employment are also societies in which women are expected to be taken care of by their family, by their men, by their brothers-in-laws, and that
by their fathers, by their male
whatever
cousins,
the men earn,
by their sons,
to the women. Yeah, whatever men earn is expected by law to go to women. This is always the bargain.
Yeah,
you know. And in many cases, I think a lot of women are happy with it. They're just like, yeah, let the men go and do what men do to provide. You know,
I'm
let
happy
them
with
go
it.
Create their little their cooperative beehive and make the honey, and then I'll just siphon it off when I want some.
Well, this is what I do, but you know what else I do, right? I make sure that my husband has lots of good meals, okay? That he has what he needs to do a proper job. I drive him everywhere because he doesn't like driving, right? So I drive him everywhere. He especially doesn't like driving after we got T-boned, right? And he wants to focus on his work. And when he's home from work, he wants to focus on learning new things to get better at work. That's just the kind of guy he is. And I look after everything else. Everything else. The lawn, the home maintenance and repairs, the cleaning, the cooking, the making sure that the food he eats doesn't kill him, because 95% of what you can buy in the grocery store would kill him. Right? All of these things, right? I'm his medical advocate. I am the person who arranges all of the things. I'm the person who keeps his relationship with his mother alive. Okay? And I manage the money, and I invest, and I put things in savings, and I do all of that stuff. And, and I'm happy doing that. It's been years since I've had to have a day job, right? Because he earns really good money. And part of the reason he earns really good money is because I'm there helping him freaking a sensitive, possibly controversial email that he has to send and CC to the bosses, the higher ups, and all of that, right? I go and I proofread that. I tell him how to change the wording to make it seem less antagonistic, or like word it exactly properly, because it's an important freaking thing over an important freaking issue, right? I do all of those things for him, and he's here. Oh, and I tug his dick a lot. Okay.
Well,
and I'm just saying.
I know. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
just that easy.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, we do the full shebang fairly often, but, like, if I'm not in the mood for it, yeah, like, there's a handy there. What I'm saying is, like, I am, and I don't feel demeaned. Like, I don't feel like his servant or anything like that. What he is the person who brings in all the money. And I want to keep him in tip-top shape.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that he's good to go every morning, and then I have most of the rest of the day to myself. And he's not picky with the housekeeping. That's the nice thing, right? If he was a perfectionist with like dusting and shit, I'd be like, yeah, you can go fuck yourself. But you can tug your own dick, thanks. But he's not picky about that. He's got things that he needs to help him get through his day at his extremely stressful job that's very important, and I just do all of the other stuff. And it's like,
that's very common throughout history. Like that,
yes.
Yeah, women just took care of all of that, sort of like they were the farmers, and men were the ones who went out and plowed the fields,
hunted, and cut down trees.
But what I'm getting at is that women were happy with that. I can't emphasize.
I'm overjoyed with this. This is like
women
the best
were happy with that arrangement, and they were happy in part because they knew in like 200, 300 years ago, they knew how important what they did was to society. Like 300 years ago, peasant women go on strike. Villages.
All the husbands starve.
Yeah, all the husbands starve, and or get botulism, or so it's they knew, and they were perfectly happy with that. They were perfectly happy with having their sphere. And I've even heard like Ayn Rand was speaking. I listened to something a long time ago, like from not I listened to it a long time ago. It was from a long time ago, and she talked about how women were content because they had their own thing. They called it the power of necessity. Their influence was the power of necessity.
Yes.
Like, they knew. Like, all those old babushkas and all village women, they knew. They knew how important their role was and how critical it was to the survival of their community. And they were fine with that. They gave men, they just let men have the role that men wanted to have. Day to day, women were doing the clerical organization, making sure people don't get botulism or die of the flu. And then when the Vikings attack, all the men click together and do their thing. And it worked because get this. We evolved to work together. We evolved to fill in each other's spreadsheets, as Karen said in the beginning of all this.
Yeah, no, it's like whenever my husband gets cranky or I won't say uppity, when he just gets like ungrateful, when he's like, you don't do nothing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cook for yourself tonight. He changes his tune immediately because, it's just like, it's the way to a man's heart is through his stomach and his penis.
Okay, so do we have to do any thank yous? Because the natives are getting restless. So
the natives are getting restless. Sorry, guys, I know that was a long tangent, but ultimately, yes, feminism.
It's not really a tangent, but
I don't know if it surprised anybody.
Because it didn't recognize that men got the vote. Well, some men got the vote because they were responsible for the overall protection of society.
Yeah.
Okay. Women had influence on the internal, which was very critical because it kept everything going. They were the logistics. Men had the vote because the vote much more related to the external, which what they had to deal with. They had to protect. and it was just a balance of powers. That's it. And
Well,
feminism framed that as oppression of
women had pillow power too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like
they always
they
had.
had power.
The French,
They had influence across the pillow, 100%.
Well,
the French paid like half their GDP to go send like a courtesan to the British king. You know, they just wasted all that money, did they? No, because they knew that a woman would have incredible influence over
Yeah.
a king if she
Yeah.
could catch his eye. She didn't, because the British monarchs have the most bizarre fucking taste imaginable. But they tried. Like-
anyway, so do you have an announcement or something, or?
Oh yeah. So if you're trying to get something through PayPal is dealing with a site-wide issue where the payment buttons aren't working.
Uh-oh.
They don't seem to feel any necessity in fixing that, because I've heard rumors that they have something that pops up that sends you to like a queer organization, and I can use
What?
that word because like there's something that put, you know, there's like a you can donate to a queer organization in the actual payment. So you can't actually pay for what you want to, but you allegedly you can go and pay for them.
Oh, so that's like a hack.
Or something. I don't know, but something is going wrong with PayPal. I see a bunch of you have attempted to put something through, or at least one of you has attempted to put something through and it hasn't gone through. So that is why. It's just not going to go through now because...
Try a different method then?
Yeah, just try the other payment method. I know it's a little bit more cumbersome because you have to put your payment stuff into the website itself. I don't think we have any thank yous because we do have one thank you to give to Miss Anne of Arc, who gave us $10 initially. I'm guessing that this problem is sort of making it difficult for people to port.
Right.
That
but we do
sucks.
have Super Channel. Yeah.
Well, try the other thing then, payment processor. Maybe you can use just the tip or something, or just go to feedthebadger.com/support. It's not that inconvenient, and it's not really something we can do anything about. So, all right. Well, thank you for the $10.
You want me to do some arm twisting? Okay, guys, you really have to help out, otherwise we won't be able to continue to do this work. So please take a moment to just go to feedthebadger.com/support. I know I do this every month, and I always have the anxiety, you know, is this going to be the month? And I know everybody has that anxiety here at HPR, but just please help us out. Make sure that we can continue to talk about this. I think the next Super Chow really hits the nail on the head on why it's important that we need to do this.
All right.
Do you want to read it, Brian?
Yeah. So, Sick Fox gives us $10 and says through Super Chow, thank you, Sick Fox. I know it shouldn't, but it still amazes me to see how praising men as uniquely important in certain ways is perceived as inherently hateful and false, including by people that would swear up and down that they love men and are not feminists. Yep. Oh, well, that's the thing that's the thing that separates, you know, like people like us from most other people, I think. But yeah, I agree.
We uniquely say that women need to take responsibility. Like Lauren Sutherland will say something like, Lauren Southern, you know, women motivate men. Well, then that means women need to take responsibility for the fact that men aren't motivated. Okay?
Yeah.
And something that I have noticed really motivates men who otherwise are lost, or who would have otherwise been lost, is simply telling them that masculinity is valuable in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like what men bring to society is valuable in and of itself.
It absolutely is.
What they could bring to a family too.
Yep.
Yeah, and it should be cherished and it should be respected and valued. We are here because of the way human men are, the way their sexuality is, the way they view the world, the way they express their masculinity. We're here and we enjoy what we do because of men. And we need to recognize that and value men for what they are. And not start heaping more shame about how they haven't measured up to women. I don't know how the hell men measure up to women, because basically women are like, oh yeah, I want to have Shiva or Odin or maybe Zeus You know, I'm not, how does the average mortal man measure up to that? Like,
Yeah.
perfect imagining of a woman. They can't. And we totally devalue men, and we need to stop.
Yeah.
And we can't just be like, oh no, like, men, pull up your socks, pull up your socks. That gives men nothing to start with. And this is what I've seen in the work that I've done. That you can tell men who are lost in some ways that there is value to you have value. Your masculinity has value. And surprisingly, I know a lot of people will be absolutely astounded by this. Surprisingly, when you tell a guy who's struggling that, they dig in deeper and work harder. I guess I don't know. I couldn't exactly tell you why, because apparently if you tell that to men, they just sit back and like, yeah, I'm perfect. But in my experience, if a guy's struggling and you say, no, you have something of worth to bring to the world. Your masculinity has value. Don't give up on yourself. They don't. They actually dig in harder and work harder and make more of an effort and feel more capable of doing so, as opposed to constantly shaming them about being weak and producing a poor society because men are weak. Which I don't see, because men still continue to produce society.
It's the thing that always makes Jordan Peterson cry.
Yeah. That's why I can't completely condemn him.
Yeah, no. The number of men he's spoken to who have never heard a single word of encouragement. Yeah. Because that's what that is. Yeah. That's what that is. That's what that is. It's like you can, what you are intrinsically, what you are, what is inside of you has value, and you can build on that and make a positive effect on the world, right? On the people around you, on your loved ones, on your home, on your community, on your your country, whatever, right? You can do that with what's in you if you harness it properly, if you harness it cautiously, if you harness it with forethought, if you harness it responsibly, you can be a positive force in the universe just with what you have in you right now, right?
And
if you use it right,
specifically
as a man. And the number of men who are despairing because they cannot, they have never heard a single word of encouragement that basically says you're okay with you're okay the way you are, but anyone can improve.
Yeah.
But even that, just saying that men have something valuable to give to the world, I have found has been very encouraging to the people, or to the men and the young men who our society considers lost. Okay, so a young man who thinks that he might be a woman, just give an encouraging word about being a man. Maybe he'll change his path. Not to say that if they necessarily truly identify as a woman, they will change their path, or that's what you're trying to do. But if it's really about feeling like you have nothing of worth as a man, so you might as well be a woman, you can stop that. And there is a portion where that is what is exactly what's happening.
Yep.
And then also, you have value as a man. So make that extra effort to maybe get off disability, get a job, work for yourself. Make yourself feel like you're a contributing part of the community for yourself. Okay. Yep. Maybe advance further for yourself, and to start with, to say you have value. You don't even have to do anything. And this is something that men really struggle with, because it's against that fundamental part of themselves, I think, which is that all of their value be through their actions. But even that
the actions you take towards yourself are just as valuable. That's the thing, right?
Yeah,
so
even that mentality is something that's given to you by your masculinity.
Yep.
Like that comes out of being a man, being masculine, being masculinized, having more testosterone than average, is that you focus on the idea that you should earn through your actions. That very mentality granted to you by your biology is absolutely critical to everything in the world that we see. 100%.
Did you guys hear that?
Was that thunder?
Is that thunder?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
I'm getting
Well,
a
I might be
free
losing-
car wash.
Oh, good. Okay, so anyway, the ultimate point is, please make sure that we can continue to say this stuff. I really am grateful to everybody who helps us out. It really, like this, I'm very passionate about this, and I'm very passionate about that this message needs to continue. Because I see what it does. I see that it helps men to know that they have value and that they have worth. And that when men hear that, the ones who really need to hear it, that doesn't stop them from continuing to, it gives them a reason to dig in and try even harder. That's what I've seen. And for some reason, this message is just confusing as hell to both traditionalists and feminists. Don't even want to entertain it, because in order to say that men have value, you have to say that there's some positive trait to masculinity that women and feminine individuals don't show nearly as much.
Well, it's you have to let them know, because there are some men who are like so messed up, right? That there's just it's like, well, you are no help to anyone, even yourself, right? Like, you are self-destructive. You are destructive to the people around you. You are like, but you have the potential to be more. You have the potential to have a positive influence on yourself first, right? And then your surroundings, and then the people around you, and then your community, and then greater society. You have that potential inside yourself, and that's a masculine potential. And women have a feminine potential that does the exact same thing, right? Just in a slightly different way. And
we're all trying to get to the same place.
Well, we're all trying to get to a place of a functional society where everybody is doing the best that they can do.
But regardless, this was supposed to be a chill, so or an appeal. Please help out. I know that it's difficult now because of the PayPal issue, but please go to feedthebadger.com/support. Somebody put something in, because goddamn, you're scaring the crap out of me, guys. So please go to feedthebadger.com/support. Put something in, $5, $10. Just get the ball rolling, because we need to make sure we can pay for this month. Anyway, let's do a little bit more, because I can feel Brian's.
I mean, this is what. Never mind. Let's just play some more.
And I only have 24 minutes left.
Oh, great! We're gonna get about 2 minutes into this.
Yeah, I know.
You don't think women should get the right to vote?
No, I don't.
Okay, so are you serious or are you kidding?
No, I'm serious.
Okay, so women shouldn't have the right to vote.
Yeah.
Why?
No.
It's not a right. That's what I would have said. It's not a right. People say it is, but it's not.
Because men are signed up for selective service, so they're fined $300,000 if they don't sign up for selective service when they're 18.
Do you think women should be drafted into the army?
I think if we want the same rights, it comes with the same responsibilities.
Do you think women should be drafted into the army?
No.
Okay, so then there's a paradox.
No, but that's my point. I'm saying.
Okay, just pausing for the banana.
There's no paradox. She's saying women shouldn't have the vote because they don't have to sign up for the selective service, and women shouldn't be drafted into the military. Therefore, they shouldn't have the vote. That's not a paradox. That's a complete circle of logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let's make it fair.
You don't believe? Well, listen. This is your perfect one.
I'm saying that if we are going to vote, have the same cost, which is that men are put into selective service and women are not. And if I had to pick between the two, then I would give up the right to vote instead of sign up for selective service.
Okay, so you're saying women should only get the right to vote if they sign up for selective service, but at the same time, you're saying women should not serve in the military. So in your world, women are just going to be disenfranchised because they're not going to be able to sign. They shouldn't serve in the military because they're not as good fighters.
No,
right?
no, I'm saying if.
Okay, just pausing it there. I don't want to go too far, but she's not saying that women should not be allowed to join the military. She's saying that the draft is not going to be good for women because they suck, and they're going to get themselves killed, and they're going to get men killed. And that's just the truth. And the other thing is, when he says, "Oh, you're saying women can't vote and they can't fight in the military, they're being disenfranchised," is going to war being like not like basically yeah, is that enfranchisement? Is that a benefit? Like, really? Anyway,
it's not.
You watch too many fucking movies about World War II. that's the problem.
You watch the wrong ones. Holy
well,
crap.
yeah, like the really heroic ones is what I'm saying. You watch too much like Michael Bay shit. Like, you don't look at the real world, you know?
And how freaking miserable service is.
Yeah.
Not just dangerous, it's miserable. And yeah, like the problem is that if women aren't expected to do service, they get into wars that are ridiculous. And wars that could be avoided if
female leaders,
if the negotiation was taking place between people who had skin in the game, who had an vested interest in not fighting. This is the problem.
Or who could
have a vested interest in not fighting.
Most kings, most like prime ministers, presidents, like they don't have any skin in the game, right? In terms of like, they're not going to be asked to go out on the battlefield. But they do understand what it was like to have to sign that little registration form and say, yeah, if we go to war, my number might come up. Elvis Presley was drafted. He was furious that he was drafted and Jerry Lee Lewis was not. Because Jerry Lee Lewis continued his music career while Elvis Presley was serving. So, you know, it's like when you have that obligation, and there are a lot of European countries and Asian countries where service is mandatory for 2 years, 4 years, whatever, right? It's not a matter of signing up just in case there's a draft. It's a matter of like, you're conscripted into the military and you have to serve. Korea, it's 2 years. So yeah, Denmark, it was like 3 years.
He's still controlling the framing as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Because simply the problem here is this idea that women not having the vote is oppression. Okay. If something comes with a payment, like something that you have to pay, I mean, society would not tolerate women in World War I dying the way men were. Like that is like, we wouldn't tolerate animals dying the way men were dying in World War I.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to understand that there was no way society was going to send women into the war like that. All right, we're barely tolerated now that I don't know, like our troops don't have to face artillery or air any kind of air support,
or ever have to be close enough to an enemy to look them in the eye.
Yeah, but okay, so the overall point is that this has been framed as oppression of women when it isn't.
No,
it is not. 100%, it is not oppression of women.
Especially since women have that influence across the pillow in terms of how their husbands vote.
Yeah.
I mean, look at
like they used to have campaign posters. Ladies, get your husbands to vote for so and so. They wouldn't have wasted the ink and paper in the late 1800s if it didn't work.
Yeah, like look at the whole thing with the French trying to send a courtesan to influence the French or the British king, which I think she did end up doing, and they spent a whole bunch of money on that. Well, think about that. Every woman, or every man with a vote, or almost every man with a vote, has a woman with that power over him.
Or multiple women, his mother, his wife, maybe his sisters.
Yeah, his sisters.
Daughters.
I mean, yeah, like there's already a way for women to influence the vote prior to even having it. And then to give them the vote without the corresponding expectation of service to the state creates an enormous injustice.
Yeah, not even mandatory work, not even sewing uniforms or picking up community service, picking up litter from the sides of highways and stuff. Yeah, no, like they weren't made to do any service to the federal government. So it's like,
they got it for nothing, and that is creating. So we went,
and they didn't even have to pay extra taxes.
We went from
right. I could even see it. I could even see it if their income was taxed at twice the rate men's was, to make up for that. Too.
Yeah, could just some kind of sacrifice, but women had to do nothing, none of it. And in fact, they didn't even have to do it. Every group of disenfranchised men had to serve in wartime before they were even considered for the vote. Not women. Okay, they just got it. So this is framed as some kind of huge oppression of women prior to it. Well, it wasn't. And after, it created a very, very unfair advantage towards women and female citizens.
Yep.
Okay? Period. And that is the important part. Getting into the nitty-gritty of, do you want women to be enfranchised? Do you not want him to? Well, what about service? That is all bullshit. The problem is the framing. Just like what you were saying initially, Karen, that she's like allowing him to bring this into the weeds. Bring it back to the problem is the framing. The specific issues of how to arrange all of this is irrelevant. The idea that this was oppression of women is wrong.
Yes.
And again, you have to nip this in the bud. When he says the right to vote, you have to say it's not a right. It's not a right. It's a responsibility. There's a big difference. Like but the thing is that the more, and everybody does this, conservatives do it, lefties do it, all the same. If they call it a right, then it becomes something that cannot be criticized. But it's not a right, because when men vote, because they all have to sign up for selective service, they vote taking into consideration the possibility that they could be voting for a warmonger, or for someone who's going to tax the crap out of them and take their money from them and redistribute it to other people, mainly women. But when women vote, you could have like the most warmongery president ever, or prime minister or whatever, and if that guy just promises gibs to women and he panders to women, they'll vote for him because they don't have to worry about going to war. They don't have to worry about getting the shit tax out of them. They just vote in their self-interest. They vote for what they want. He offers gibs, they get that. Why does Trudeau keep winning other than like whatever sketchy shit goes on? Because he says nice things about women. Because he says I'm a feminist. And women vote for that. They do.
Yeah.
They don't vote because they care about like what's happening to the economy, because they get money no matter what, because the men will get taxed, right? That's the thing. Like you cannot.
Or alternatively.
Alternatively what?
What? Well, like men with resources tend to want to give those resources to women.
Yeah, and they get taxed. That's what I'm saying. Like it's just they're just double dipping in the whatever men produce, and women will never vote against their self-interest, no matter how base it is. So if they're just voting for gibs, then they will. And politicians know that. That's why they all pander to women. And it's not just because women are the majority of the voting bloc. It's not just because women are more likely to go out and vote. But it's because it's so easy to just be like, I care about you. You're a woman. I know how oppressed you've been throughout history. And on top of that, if they vote for warmongery presidents, then more men go to war, fewer of them come back, and now all of a sudden there's even more female voters than men. So they get to win more elections. So if you cannot allow people to frame the vote as a right, it must be framed as a responsibility, because that's what it is. When people make choices with their ballots, they are affecting everybody, and they have to know that. And so if you frame this as a right, you have to tell them it's not a right. A right is something that you are given from birth that people cannot take away from you. It's not shit the government gives you, So and that's it. That's just the way. That's what you have to, because Ethan can't respond to that. I mean, he can go all, he will say, well, we call it a right for a year. Everybody's wrong. I don't care who you bring up. You can tell me so-and-so important person from this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle said it was a right. I'm going to be like, yeah, they're fucking wrong. They're a moron. It's not a right. That's just not how it works.
And it wasn't considered a right initially.
No, it's a responsibility. It's not even a privilege. It's a responsibility, you know?
Yeah, but it came with, like, before... It wasn't considered a right because, and when men received the vote, it wasn't considered a right, ever.
Mm-hmm. No.
They had to literally earn it first. They had to say, I am willing to take a bullet for this entity, this country that I want to say in.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to demonstrate that willingness before they were even considered to be allowed to have a say. And it's completely rendered invisible by these arguments that people... Doesn't matter how you want to structure things. If we can't create a comparable level of sacrifice for women, investment in their society, any level, investment in their society, responsibility to their society of some kind, maybe it can't be combat, maybe it has to be some kind of other public service or expectation placed on them. If we can't do that, they don't have a right to have, or they should not have the responsibility, thank you, Brian, the responsibility of a say in a society they have no skin in a society that they look at and they say, well, how does it benefit me?
Yes.
I mean, how many people can we sustain with that attitude of looking at society and saying, well, it exists to benefit me? Well, who is going to generate that benefit if everybody believes that?
Yeah.
Well, within, oh God, there was a study done in Switzerland because they had the vote fairly late, right? Women had the vote fairly late. And I think it was 1978 or something like that. And they found that the Swiss government grew.
No shit.
The debt grew exponentially after that to like something like 12 times its size. So it was going along, just, minding its own business, crawling along the x-axis, and then whoop, all of a sudden.
Shit, Karen.
So much spending.
You incentivize people to vote only for the shit that they want, and they vote for it. Who would have thought?
Yeah, no, but the thing is, right? And you even look at voting patterns between married and single women, right? So married women tend to vote more conservative because they want their husband to keep as much of his income as possible.
Yep.
And unmarried women vote liberal, right? Small L, small c, right? Vote liberal because they just want the gibs from the government.
From men.
Because they don't see it as coming from men.
No.
They see it as coming from the government.
Yeah, the government's magic money trees that they grow in on the field of the main building.
Like and
the whole landscape of all of this only makes sense if we come from the assumption that women feel entitled for society to benefit them, and everybody else believes that that's how society should be structured. That's the only way that our Satan became a society that benefits men over women, and that any allegation of engaging in Satanism became like social death. Like that's the only way it makes sense, at least to me. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else.
Well, no, it's basically that it is like the devil, right? Because the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing humanity that he didn't exist.
Well, I'm just saying that in
and
a society...
that's female power. Female power is like the devil. Its greatest trick, its most successful trick was convincing the rest of the world that it didn't exist.
Yeah, then that's how we can have a supposed patriarchy for the benefit of men at the expense of women. And if you ever say that maybe we should consider benefiting men, you are instantly a social pariah in this society that's structured for the benefit of men at the expense of women. You say that, oh, maybe we should consider the situation. Out onto the ice floe with you. God damn.
Over the cliff. This is Sparta.
Send them to the Phantom Zone.
Or Spartet.
Yep.
I guess.
And we can't even be honest with that. We can't even just be like, yes, we just care about women. Yes, we want to give women beanies. Well, then we have to start discussing how long are we going to be able to do this as a society?
Yeah, well, we're already like way past that, Allison.
I don't know. Maybe we can sell our great-grandchildren and then our great-great-grandchildren so that we can destroy our productivity even more. Like,
shall we continue?
Okay.
I know Karen's got to go like soon.
I gotta go in 6 minutes.
All right, we're about a third of the way through this clip, but
I'm saying for me personally, I would not want to sign up for selective service if I had to pick.
So I
would give that up.
You think women should be given the choice if they want to do selective service or not?
But if women get the choice, it's not selective service, motherfucker. The men don't get the choice. Like, okay, maybe if women choose
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like if you do the Starship Troopers thing, which I'm totally down with, and women choose, then they get the vote. But then men should also have the choice, and if they don't choose, then those men don't get the vote. And we can do it that way, but I don't think that would make anyone happy.
Well, it would make me happy.
Yeah.
I think if we're going to vote, we should have no choice like the men do.
So women should be drafted mandatory into selective service, you believe?
No, that's
okay. But don't you see there's an issue? There's a problem here.
I said, if feminists want the right to vote, right, then it should come with the draft. It should come. I mean, it's not called the draft anymore. It's called selective service. Personally, in Pearl's world, I do not want to be drafted. I do not want to be in selective service.
I know, but I'm asking you, like in general, in terms of policy, because obviously, I think it's safe to say women in general want the right to vote.
Yes, because they don't have to pay for it. Okay? Yeah, fine. Just go with the whole, they can just opt out.
Yeah, I want the free hors d'oeuvres.
Because it doesn't fucking matter, because this is not, his ideology is not, how do we structure the draft to be fair? His ideology is, we live in a society that has existed for perpetuity for men's benefit at the expense of women. So that has nothing to do with discussing his ideology. So what has to do with discussing his ideology is whether or not the draft and all of this shit actually supports it, and it does not. Okay?
Yeah.
Men had to die to get the vote. Women did not. From that very moment that they got the vote, that was an injustice or a disenfranchisement of men. Because now there's a group of people that doesn't have to die to get the vote. Okay? They get it because they're more special.
Yeah.
All right? That is itself a counter argument to his ideology. He believes that back then we existed in a society that put men's benefit ahead of women's. Bullshit. If that was true, the men in charge would say, okay, ladies, well, I guess you're going to be doing the next World War I, and then when you have died for your country, you will have earned the right to vote. And that wouldn't have actually been putting men's benefit ahead of women. That would have been putting women's benefit at the same level as men's.
Yeah.
Okay, just treating them equally.
Yep.
All right? So right there, he is saying, wow, this is the ultimate litmus test and my ideology is absolutely correct. And now we're in the weeds discussing, well, what kind of fucking policy? Who gives a fuck? This entire thing it disproves what he's asserting. And why are we here? Why are we discussing this? Stick to the point of contention, which is whether or not his ideology is correct. Is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
Even he knows it's bullshit, I'm pretty sure, if he's smart enough.
No,
Oh,
but
he's not that bright.
no, but he is extremely manipulative. So that's the only thing he's got.
Cunning.
He's
Yeah.
like a woman.
Yeah, he's like
that
he's
way.
like an Eton. They're not intelligent, but they are cunning.
So, all right,
All right,
more little.
let's
clip,
do one more.
and then I gotta
Right.
go.
Mhm.
And so then, by your logic, women need to be entered into selective service,
Mhm.
right? But you don't think that should happen, or you think that's okay?
Yeah, I'd rather not.
Not you.
Right.
I mean, in general, the women, because women
Right.
want to vote. So how do we resolve this issue? Do they get drafted like men?
I mean, I think it's unlikely that women will ever have the right to vote taken away. So I guess moving forward,
What a
maybe
waste of time.
net taxpayers potentially you could do, but that's
All
a
right,
whole
net taxpayers?
that's a whole nother conversation. But
Wait, what
no,
does
I
that
think
mean?
if we're gonna vote, I think that we
What
should.
does net taxpayers mean?
Yeah.
Oh, Ethan, you fucking retard. Anyway, I'm going on that note. Okay, Ethan Klein, you're a freaking retard. Okay,
Okay,
and
Karen,
I
please-
stand
please-
by that. And I don't even care if YouTube takes this video down because of it.
Oh, okay. Well, we will try to continue this. We have
Maybe
some
tomorrow.
superheroes.
Maybe tomorrow. I do have some time tomorrow.
I have to go to my husband is getting dental work done,
Oh,
and I need to be there with him because
because he's being
this is-
put under.
well, he's not being put under. It's because he's terrified of, or he really doesn't like dental work.
So who's his dentist? Is it Steve Martin from Little Shop of Horrors? Because I mean, there's
Yes, I think so. I'll be a dentist.
No, he's got a very nice.
And
dentist.
I get off on the pain I inflict.
It's
All right.
just a situation where some people have fear. Okay,
Okay.
maybe
And-
Friday if we can squeeze in some.
Oh
time.
my
I-
God!
Yes, we-
Friday. Okay. I have a look. I'm doing a fireside chat on Friday. Maybe it would have to be later in the day though. So I have a fireside chat with Young Ripa, also known as God. Why am I dropping his name? It's not on my mind. But anyway, I've been trying to get this guy on for at least a year, and everyone's asking me to do
Eric
it, and I
July?
finally got it. Eric July, thank
Eric
you.
July?
Yeah, Eric July, and I finally got him, and I'm really looking forward to this. So it's on Friday at 3. I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern. So we can do it after that.
Yes. That
So
would be fine.
if that like after that.
Yeah,
3 p.m.
If you can handle
Eastern.
an evening, Karen.
Friday
If you can handle an
is
evening.
Friday is pretty open. And so yeah, I
Maybe
could
we'll get
probably
even
do
further
that.
in. We'll get even. We'll actually get to the point where he starts to really become a disingenuous tool.
Oh no!
What do you mean? That was at the beginning.
He's already started. but,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
at the beginning.
When he
so.
when he really commits to it.
When
Yeah.
he really commits to it, we've already had the inciting incident. Now we need to see him commit.
Yeah.
Oh God!
All right.
All right.
Okay, I
All
got
right,
some
Karen.
thank yous to give. Thank you, Karen, for
Okay.
coming on. and-
Yeah, Karen, you
All
can
right.
go because I got to read some super chats and whatnot. So go
Okay,
ahead, Karen.
have a
Thank
good,
you.
Have a good one, everybody.
All right, love you,
Bye-bye.
Karen. Bye bye. Ethan will never invite us on, by the way, ever, no matter how big we get, because he would get annihilated. Like, Pearl she's a very delicate flower, I think. I mean, she can handle, like, aggressive, like, ratchet people on her show, but, like, when it comes to people like this, that are just, like, fucking lizard people, I think that she's just, like, just unable to just call them out when they do this manipulative shit. I think they're far
he's
worse.
already-
Like, I'd rather have somebody throwing an emotional tantrum and storming out, so.
He's already framing. He bullied her into a particular position, and now he's framing and this is a pointless argument.
Yeah.
And I've actually said this to people. Like, I don't know. This is not in my wheelhouse how to solve this issue. I have no expertise when it comes to combat effectiveness. I have no or logistics or any of this shit. This is not for me to solve. But this is an issue that very much discredits your assertion that society is constructed for the benefit of men at the expense of women. And I challenge male feminists who recognize that the draft and selective service is an injustice, which it patently is, to have that injustice start to inform their worldview about how society is structured.
Yeah.
Because that's when you really commit to understanding an injustice, when you allow it to inform your worldview. Okay, that's an injustice that men faced, and some of them got the benefit of the vote in compensation, not even compensation, but the expectation is that if you're willing to die for your society, you have the understanding necessary to have a say in it. Okay? That's how it worked for men. If you understand that, you understand that this isn't evidence of women's oppression. 100% it isn't. And even if you allow the possibility that it's evidence of some kind of discrimination against women, once that was fixed, it became an incredible disenfranchisement of men that we still have not addressed to this day.
Yeah.
All right, and that's what needed to be talked about, not the logistics of the logisticizing of whatever this fucking shit is. This is irrelevant bullshit. And I would hope that if he ever brought one of us on, preferably Karen, because she's really good at this, that 100% we keep him on task. This isn't the topic that we're discussing. The topic we're discussing is the validity of your worldview.
Yeah.
And this particular issue disproves the validity of your worldview.
Yeah. And also don't let them, like, when they start throwing words around, make sure that you understand their definitions of those words. Because that's one of the trickiest things. That's why I have to hammer hard on this right to vote garbage, because it is a commonly used term. It probably came from feminists and suffragettes, where they started it as though it was a right from the get-go, and you just can't accept it, because when you don't even have to look at it closely to see that it's not a right. And so you can't let people use words like rights or democracy, when referring to United States, or so many of these other terms, equality. Like, you have to call them out on all of that. You have to be like, what do you mean by equality? What is that defined by? What do you mean by rights? What is that? How does you define that? Because if you don't, they use those words to make their side sound reasonable, and if you oppose that, then you're unreasonable.
And they also do weird things like, they presume an opinion of you, and then when you call them out, what exactly do you think my opinion is? They have no answer.
Mm-hmm.
They just
you have to do that too. Yeah, you have to. That's
infuriating.
It is. It is.
If these individuals with this disingenuous argument, they ever say, "Well, this is your," you tell them, "Okay, please state what you think my opinion is."
Mm-hmm.
And often they can't.
Of course, yeah. It's
just some weird kind of song and dance where they're trying to create the illusion that you're evil somehow.
Mm-hmm.
This way that we discuss stuff is so counterproductive to getting anything done or understanding anything or clearly creating a pathway forward. And honestly, it is completely juvenile feminine is what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you are a woman who has matured and taken responsibility for her choices, you don't communicate in this way.
Mm-hmm.
But juvenile, feminine, the childish feminine, this is how they communicate.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Got some super chat.
Yeah, so I thought you had some thank yous.
Oh, and I also have thank yous as well. So I will get to that, and
we'll do that first. I'll leave it where we are, 40 minutes in. I think that Ethan later brings up that feminists were fighting for to remove selective service from men, which is a lie. I mean, they may say it, but they haven't obviously done it, because whatever feminists set their mind on, they do get done. But they haven't really done that, even though they'll say, well, there shouldn't be a draft, but they don't actually fight for it. You know who was doing that? Mark Angelucci was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the feminists want to get supposedly in comment, but only because they want the advancement. I don't think they understand what the hell they're asking for. Okay, so Dr. V I'll just say Dr. V just in case that is actually a legal name. Dr. V gives us $25. Thank you, Dr. V, and I think
nice. What?
I think he's new.
Yeah, I've never heard that name before. Thank you, Dr. V.
Presuming it's a he. Okay, so thank you for that $25, Dr. V. And Sick Fox gives us $25 as well. So
thank you.
Sick Fox. I don't know if that's some kind of internet lingo because it's sick but without a C.
Yeah.
And then we just have the rest are super chows. So let me just do my spiel. If you want to join our very generous supporters, once again, that's feedthebadger.com/support. I really apologize that PayPal has decided it doesn't want to function or address the fact that it doesn't want to function, but we do have a secondary means to support us, a way of inputting your financial information into our payment processor. We don't receive that information or anything. It's all done through encryption and whatever else. But please do help us out, even in with this difficulty, by going to feedthebadger.com/support. It's very much appreciated. Like I said, I think we're like, I've had so many times where people are like, "Oh, are you gonna blame women?" And I'm like, yes. Oh, did the world implode? It seems like the world is still going after you have accused me of the very worst thing you possibly could. And I've said, yes, I'm going to blame women. I am going to hold women responsible. Okay? We hold up half the sky, or we did until we stopped taking responsibility. All right? We need to include men and men's needs in the future, or we don't have one. Men have a right to have needs. Not only do they have a right to have needs, they have needs. Period.
Yeah.
Like, they don't just exist as autonomous units that provide women shit. They are beings with their own nature, their own perceptions, their own validity in and of themselves. And we need to recognize that fact, acknowledge it, accept it, stop shaming it, because people are always like, oh, but we do. No, we only recognize it to shame it. That's all I've ever seen other people do, is to say, oh, men's needs, they just dominate. Yeah, all you're doing is recognizing those needs in order to shame them out of existence. That's all I ever see people do. Outside of what we say, is basically saying, well, yeah, men have needs, but they're bad and they're wrong. And we recognize them too much, which is another way of shaming men for having needs. Assuming that we recognize them too much. Where? I see people exploiting them for money, but I don't see them as being recognized as valid in and of themselves. Okay. We say that. And I'm willing to go there. And I'm willing to say that. And I'm willing to say, yes, we need to hold women responsible, and we need to actually listen to what men are saying for once. What they're actually saying.
Yeah.
Okay, even what they can't say. We need to listen to that. And this is unique as far as I can tell. The expectation that women take responsibility and that men be cared for. And if you want to make sure that we can continue to talk about this and continue to make sure that we are a thorn in the side of everybody who wants to ignore this stuff, until we all hit the collective wall, of course, of trying to keep ignoring this stuff, then please go to feedthebadger.com /support and help us out. I really appreciate it. I don't want to stop now. This needs to get done. I mean, I feel like it's very personally important that it gets done because I invested a lot in this. But I think it's also really critical that somebody do this work for the sake of the future, because it's not going to come from ignoring men's needs and ignoring women's responsibilities. Those are the two things that are going to lead us into destruction. The solution is going to come from not doing that and not buying into these excuses why we can continue to coast along in our inertia and spend our great grandchildren's non-existent productivity. All right. Feedthebadger.com /support. Please go there and help out. And if you have a message that you want to send us after the show, if you enjoy the show, you want to give us a tip, feedthebadger.com /justthetip. Right, back to you, Brian.
Okay, so got a couple super chows and we're gonna wrap it up. So an anonymous person sent us $15 and didn't add any messaging to it. So if you meant to, maybe if you're listening right now, you can tag at Badger Livestreams in the live chat and just let me know what it is that you wanted to say. Then we got, and otherwise though, thank you. Great Indoors gives us $100.
Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you.
And says, I've done 100 kilometers on the bike today, which was tough because I'm not used to it. So here is $1 equivalent. Please God, oh, no God, no, no, not the feminist choir. I actually don't have that soundbite, but I have some other things that could be really annoying. So Zeranx gives us $5 and said, what Karen said regarding the greatest evil would be a great clip to draw the eyes and ears. But you guys need to cover more of the video. I largely chalk things up to YouTube's 20-second DMCA rule. You guys used to cover entire vids in shorter time and succession before that crap rule. Thank you, Zeranx, for that. I do try, but like, you know, they
Ryan tries.
I do.
Tries really
I mean, I know you guys came to hear what the video has to say and what Karen and Alison have to say, and you end up mostly just hearing what Karen and Alison have to say, so. Sick Fox gives us $10. I hope you feel my pain, is what I'm saying. Gives us $10 and says, to permit irresponsible authority is to sow disaster. To hold a man responsible for anything he does not control is to behave with blind idiocy. Robert A. Heinlein, Starship Troopers. He's the author of Starship Troopers, so. And it seems like a pretty cool dude as far as I'm concerned. Which is why they call him a fascist, by the way. So
just to use Lauren's Southern statement, women motivate men. Okay, well then men are not responsible for their own motivation. So if you see a failure of motivation, which ultimately results in a failure of productivity, then women are to blame and need to take responsibility. But how can you have both? I actually had some guy try to argue that you could have both. He was like, well, women motivate men, but not all men are motivated by women. I'm like, you're trying to have it both ways.
Yeah.
If a critical number of men are not motivated by women, then it's a completely meaningless statement to say that men are motivated by women. So what? Okay, men are motivated by pictures of cats on the internet and other things. Like she said that in response to Pearl saying that men are responsible for the majority of the maintenance and production and work of society. And she said, well, women motivate men. Well, there's no way that that's a counter argument unless you're also implying that a critical mass of men are motivated by women, which means that saying, oh, men are motivated by other things is not a way of absolving women from being primarily responsible for motivating men. It's just trying to have your cake and eat it too, trying to fluff women's asses, bloviate about their worth without expecting them to take responsibility for their worth. Well, you can't attribute anything to women that they don't take responsibility for. They have no merit if they do not take responsibility for it. Is what I'm getting at. No individual merit if they do not take responsibility for the influences they have. Okay. Done.
All right. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. And I guess we'll do a show tomorrow, and then we're doubling up on Friday. So follow us for more. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications so you know when our streams go live. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think about the video, at least the little that we got through. There is a link to the full thing in the description. It's about 3 hours and 20 minutes long, but Pearl leaves the show at about 2 hours and 19 minutes because she's basically had enough of Ethan's bullshit and just couldn't take it anymore. Of course, he went on to declare victory, but whatever. But yeah, check out the link to the full video in the description. And if you want to comment on there, just leave Pearl some advice about how to handle these bad faith arguments, so that she can do better next time, because she is going to be getting a lot of this kind of attention for a while. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Fundzerker, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.